Hello everyone, welcome to Raw Online. I am Dr. Abhinaya. I am a consultant pediatrician. So in the Nielsen based pediatric teaching, we are dealing with the chapter rheumatology, and this topic Kawasaki disease is what we are going to talk about now, and this is a very important disease entity that we need to understand, and treatment at the right time is very essential to prevent the complications. So pay attention to the Kawasaki disease chapter very carefully. So Kawasaki disease is otherwise known as mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome, or previously it was called as an infantile polyarteritis nodosa or infantile PAN. So infantile PAN is no longer used, but the other name mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome. So this will give you a rough idea of what are the involvement in the Kawasaki disease: mucosal involvement, skin involvement and lymph node involvement. It is a multi-systemic inflammatory disorder and very exclusive for the pediatric population. Initially it was described in Japan, and this disease has a very high predilection for coronary arteries. High index of suspicion is needed to diagnose Kawasaki disease and to treat it effectively, because Kawasaki disease affects the coronary arteries, and if you don't treat, more than 25% of the children untreated will develop coronary aneurysms, and in case the treatment is started effectively, we can very well reduce the complications to less than 5%. So treatment of Kawasaki disease will be IVIG. So just telling a very high index of suspicion is needed to diagnose Kawasaki disease. So what is the etiology? Why does Kawasaki disease occur? Is it infectious? Is it genetic? Or is it autoimmune? Let's see. Etiology is largely unknown. Some say there is an infectious trigger, but we do not know what exactly is the trigger. Why the speculation of infectious trigger? Because of the age group affected. Typical age group will be less than 5 years or less than 6 years, children, especially boys, and it can occur as epidemics. Kawasaki disease can occur as epidemics in selective groups, and also it occurs in selective seasons. We can see a lot of patients of Kawasaki disease, especially in northern part of our country, admitted in the winters and in the springs a lot than the other seasons. So query, can be infectious, query can be genetic. The children with Kawasaki disease can have some gene mutations like ITP-KC, CASP3 gene mutations, BLK, and a particular HLA DQB2 predilection is also seen. And highest risk of Kawasaki disease is seen in the Asian population. So a genetic predilection is also suggested, but so far the etiology is largely unknown. So coming to the epidemiology, age less than 5 years, boys are at the high risk, poor prognosis if untreated, and we will discuss some of the poor prognostic factors. Very young age, say a child at 2 years or 3 years affected, boys affecting itself by itself is a poor prognostic indicator. Persistent fever, and even after you give IVIG, the child is not responding, the fever does not come down, that is a poor prognostic factor. Neutrophilia and thrombocytopenia, hypoalbuminemia. So this is exactly opposite. Normally we see in Kawasaki disease thrombocytosis, but when there is thrombocytopenia and neutrophilia, it is a poor prognostic indicator. Involvement of other systems, transaminitis, hyponatremia, increased CRP, increased BNP, brain natriuretic peptide levels, are poor prognostic factors. So there is diagnostic criteria for Kawasaki disease. A score in Japan, which is called as a Kobayashi score, is evaluated and has got very high sensitivity and specificity for coronary artery involvement. And coronary artery dimensions, the dimensions based on the body surface area is available. So, when we do a echocardiography, we need to have these baseline values to check if the child has aneurysms or not. So, Kawasaki disease has a special predilection for coronary arteries, not just coronary arteries, it can affect the other medium-sized vessels also. So, axillary, brachial, subclavian in the upper limbs, femoral and popliteal. So, when you admit a child with Kawasaki disease, also look at these vessels, do an USG Doppler, look for any thrombosis in these vessels also. So, Kawasaki disease is a three-phase arteriopathy, stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. So, stage 1, what happens? In stage 1 is called as necrotizing arteritis. Necrotizing arteritis. So, the blood vessels will have an aneurysm formation. So, initially the tunica intima and tunica media is destroyed. Thrombosis can form or the aneurysms can rupture. Progressively it can go for ischemia. This is necrotizing arteritis stage 1. Stage 2 is a subacute arteritis. The aneurysms become severe and lymphocytic involvement, myofibroblast proliferation, subsequently goes for stenosis, and this can again lead to progressive ischemia. So, first stage is a necrotizing arteritis, subacute or a chronic arteritis, and stage 3 will have this is the lumen of the blood vessel full of proliferation of myofibroblasts. So, the smooth muscle cell transition to myofibroblasts, the lumen gets narrowed further down, either thrombosis can be present or not, but the luminal area becomes very less because of the myofibroblast proliferation. So, three-phase arteriopathy in KD, stage 1 or phase number 1, there is a saccular aneurysm. Phase 2, this is a fusiform aneurysm, and in phase 3, luminal stenosis. So, we need to understand. So, once the coronary arteries are affected, it's going to go through these 3 stages unless we treat them at the right stage and halt the disease progress. Clinical features, we are going to see the diagnostic criteria. So, typically the fever, high spike fever, unresponsive to antipyretics. That is the typical feature of Kawasaki disease. More than 5-day fever. So, fever of at least 5 days, and it can last anywhere up to 3 to 4 weeks without treatment. Apart from fever, the other 5 principal criteria we need to know. In the eyes, look for conjunctival congestion. In the oral cavity, look for changes in the lips, and in the oral cavity, look for any ulcers. Look at the skin for any rash, any exanthems. Look at the extremities, look at the fingers and toes, nail abnormalities, skin peeling, etc. in the extremities. Look at the lymph nodes, non-purulent cervical lymphadenopathy. So, these are the other 5 principal criteria. We will see one by one. So, first picture, look at the conjunctival congestion. Yes, non-exudative, it should not be discharging, no purulent discharge. So, non-exudative conjunctival congestion. Limbus is usually spared. Look at the sparing of the limbus here. Next, look at the oral cavity, a dry cracked lips here, dry cracked lips, erythema of the oral mucosa and strawberry tongue. This is with regards to the second criteria. Third criteria, look at the skin, polymorphous rash, generalized polymorphous rash, maculopapular rash, a scarletiniform like rash. And look at the extremities, edema, You can see here edema of the hand and feet. It can be indurated also. Look at the extremities here. You can see desquamation in the perineal areas. Look at the fingers. Complete desquamation of the fingers. And the fifth criteria will be lymphadenopathy. Look at the cervical lymphadenopathy. It can be unilateral or bilateral. More than 1.5 centimeter and a non-suppurative cervical lymphadenopathy. So the other clinical features are arthritis, possible, small or large joints, GI involvement, vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, RS involvement, child can have cough or rhinorrhea, and CNS involvement, child can be extremely irritable, typical in KD. Aseptic meningitis can cause irritability. Hepatitis, a gallbladder hydrops can be present. Urethritis will be present, but it is a sterile pyuria. Cardiac involvement, so not just coronary involvement, myocarditis can be present. Disproportionate tachycardia is present in the child. An echo will reveal a decreased ejection fraction. Kawasaki disease children can present with shock also, around 10 to 15% can present like a hypotensive shock. Pericarditis and effusion should be seen in the echo. Mitral regurgitation can be seen rarely. Look for the coronary aneurysms, look for the size of the aneurysms, compare with an Z score. A giant coronary aneurysm is called if the size is more than 8 mm or the Z score is more than 10. There's one entity called as node first KD. So node first KD present only with fever and lymphadenopathy. It is seen in older children, whereas the classic KD is seen in younger children. So the lymphadenopathy can be cervical, retropharyngeal, peritonsillar involvement. So let's look at the three phases of KD. So in the acute phase, which lasts for 1 to 2 weeks, subacute phase lasts for 2 to 3 weeks. Subacute phase has got the highest risk of sudden death due to aneurysms. So the KD onset and more than second week if the fever continues, and if you're not treating, sudden death can happen at this stage. This is the stage where you see typical thrombocytosis and desquamation. So if a child presents to you with desquamation and a fever for 2 weeks, you do a complete blood count, look for thrombocytosis, please think of Kawasaki disease, immediately send the child for an echocardiogram and start IVIG. So mostly children present because in higher tertiary centers or in referral centers, children are usually referred at this stage, 2 weeks of fever or a 10-day history of fever. Initially, child has all this maculopapular rash which is ignored, and when the child presents with all the peeling, they are just referred to tertiary centers, and very quickly we need to do an echocardiogram and start the child on IVIG. Convalescent phase somewhere between 1.5 to 2 months. There is no single diagnostic test. KD is a clinical diagnosis, so fever for 5 days, at least 5 days, and then we saw the 5 principal criteria. So 4 out of 5 principal criteria has to be fulfilled, and the lab findings are typically supportive. Thrombocytosis will be there initially, anemia can be present, platelets will be normal in the acute phase. In the subacute phase, it will start increasing. Okay. Elevated ESR. You do a urine routine, look for sterile pyuria. Do a hepatic liver function test. Elevated transaminases. CSF is done because of extreme irritability in some children, and it is completely normal. Just pleocytosis. A sterile picture is observed. So do a 2D echocardiogram. So at baseline, we need to know what are the coronary artery dimensions of the child. Do the Z score. So if the aneurysms are present, based on the size, we can divide into small, medium and giant. And American Heart Association Z score based classification is present. So if there is no involvement, no coronary involvement, score is less than 2. Only dilation 2.5. Small aneurysm means 5. Medium means 10, Giant means the score is more than 10. So this Z score is given. So classic Kawasaki disease is fever for at least 4 days or more than 4 days, and 4 out of 5 principal criteria should be present. Atypical KD, fever is present but only less than 4. 2 or 3 of the principal criteria is present, that is called atypical KD. So this atypical Kawasaki disease is something which is confusing in a clinical picture. So when you get a child, fever is present for 5 days and then 4 of the principal criteria is present, it's very easy for us to go ahead and start IVIG. But then when there is an incomplete or a atypical KD, we are left with confusion either to treat or not. So this is a simple flow chart which will tell what to do when you get a child with incomplete KD. So children with fever, 5-day fever, and maybe a 2 or 3 compatible clinical criteria is present, or there is a fever for more than 7 days and I am not able to find out anything on the blood investigations. So other laboratory tests have to be done. Do a CRP and an ESR. If CRP is more than 3, ESR is more than 40. Okay, CRP or ESR is also okay. Look for other laboratory findings: anemia, platelet count, thrombocytosis more than 4.5 lakhs after 7th day of fever, hypoalbuminemia, elevated transaminases, leukocytosis, and urine, sterile pyuria more than 10 WBCs per high power field. So just by doing a simple CBC, urine routine and a liver function test, we can diagnose and treat Kawasaki disease. So in the CBC, if there is presence of anemia, platelet count more than 4.5 lakhs after day 7 of fever, leukocytosis. In urine routine, C for pyuria, LFT, C for hypoalbuminemia and elevated transaminases level. So do this. Or if you have a suspicion, a very strong suspect of Kawasaki disease, you see multiple children getting admitted with KD and you want to evaluate, yes, please go ahead and do a 2D echo. And if the echocardiogram is positive, please treat. So either 3 or more of the lab findings, please treat. Yes, in case the CRP is less than 3 and ESR is also less than 40, just serial evaluation of the laboratory test if the fever is persisting. And if the typical peeling develops, you admit the child, you see fever is there for 7 days or 10 days. I have done all the laboratory tests, they are all inconclusive. CRP is less, ESR is less, and peeling develops after say day 10 or at the end of the second week, peeling develops, do an echocardiogram, and if echocardiogram is positive of aneurysms or dilations, then treat as Kawasaki disease. So this is a very, very important flow chart. So differential diagnosis, many other infections with viral diseases like EBV, adenovirus, measles, scarlet fever, leptospirosis, even toxic shock syndrome can be kept as a differential diagnosis. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, toxic shock syndrome, sometimes Stevens-Johnson syndrome can also present because of the typical rash involvement, and systemic JIA, fever, rash, arthritis, isn't it? So systemic JIA should also be considered as a differential diagnosis. Treatment, IVIG. You should all know how to give IVIG to a child with Kawasaki disease. So dose will be 2 gram per kg single infusion over 10 to 12 hours. And then start the child on aspirin. Very, very high dose, moderate to high dose aspirin. So look at the dose. 50 mg per kg per day to 100 mg per kg per day, which is divided every 6 hours till the child is afebrile. So this is the starting dosage of child for a child with coronary involvement. So this aspirin is given, and once the patient becomes afebrile, we can lower it to the antiplatelet dose. Antiplatelet dose is 3 to 5 mg per kg per day. So 3 to 5 mg per kg per day. Once the patient is afebrile for 2 days continuously, shift to this low dose. And if the child does not have aneurysms, you can stop at 6 weeks. If the child has aneurysms, aspirin has to be continued indefinitely. In case you give an IVIG infusion and still the child is running high fevers, the clinical condition deteriorates or worsens, it's called IVIG resistant KD. Not very common, but the incidence can be 15%. So persistent fever 36 hours after IVIG completion is IVIG resistant KD. Treatment option is you can repeat IVIG or you can give IVIG along with a systemic steroid or go for higher drugs like biologicals, infliximab or cyclophosphamide, cyclosporin, anakinra. These biologicals or immunosuppressive agents can also be tried. The unit protocols vary for IVIG resistant KD, but you should know that yes, it is also seen and has to be kept in mind in case the child runs high fever 36 hours after the completion of IVIG infusion. So coronary disease, in case you treat with aspirin alone, it is 20 to 25%. When you add IVIG, look at the incidence, it gets reduced to less than 5%. Wonderful, isn't it? Okay. So steroids. So should we give steroids? Again, this role is very, very controversial. Yes, IVIG resistant cases steroids can be given, but routine in all cases should be given or not. Some say yes, some say no. Recent studies in North America and Japanese, they have used prednisolone. North American study used methylprednisolone, but again very inconclusive. So risk score is awaited for universal protocol, that is inclusion of steroids in universal protocol, and we don't use steroids as of now. So this is antiplatelet dose of aspirin, 3 to 5 mg per kg per day orally. Duration is indefinitely if aneurysms are present. And in case medium or giant aneurysm, clopidogrel is added. So long-term aspirin patients, influenza vaccine annually is a must to prevent what is called as the Reye syndrome. And again, this is one of the common questions by examiners and by the parents themselves. Doctor, I need to vaccinate my child. IVIG has been given. When should I vaccinate? Live vaccines need to be deferred for 11 months after the IVIG infusion. So this is very, very important. And yes, so after the live vaccine, stop aspirin and you can substitute with other antiplatelet drugs. Again, personal recommendations. So prognosis. Kawasaki disease can be successfully treated and recurrence rate is very less, 1% to 3% only. Fatality again is less than 1% if treated with IVIG and aspirin. 50% of the coronary artery aneurysm will regress to the normal diameter by 1 to 2 years. That's why we say you have to continue it indefinitely, and serial echocardiograms have to be done for such children. Even though the normal diameter arrives, this is something alarming. The myointimal thickening will persist. So children are at a higher risk of atherosclerosis or the luminal stenosis. This is an area of research in Kawasaki disease. And if it's a giant aneurysm that leads to thrombosis or stenosis, then CABG, bypass graft, coronary artery bypass graft may be needed. So a very important topic, Kawasaki disease. Correct diagnosis, timely diagnosis and timely treatment is very, very essential to prevent the coronary complications, to give a good quality of life, and continuation of aspirin, compliance with aspirin is also important and has to be counseled to the parents. Thank you. With that, we come to the end of this chapter.